What is up, my friends? Welcome to another global economic report. Today we're going to talk about GDP. The numbers were just released yesterday at a 3.2%. This is an advanced estimation. We're going to talk about what is GDP, and I'm going to give you the case for why GDP should not be this good. So if you give me 10 or 15 minutes or so, I promise you it will be worth it, my friends. Go ahead and click the like button now. Hit the bell notification if you haven't already. That way this video gets out into more news feeds and gets this shared around. So I'm going to go through this relatively quickly and understand that what I'm about to show you is simply a sample size of all the data that exists. I really wish I had the time to compile all the data set, but it's just not worth it. And the time it would take would be too long. The fact remains that we are not in the best of economic situations right now, and it's pretty easy to see. So I wrote this article yesterday. Well, not an article, newsletter. We do the Empire newsletter under empirealerts.substack.com. It is free. You can actually view all these for free before you even give away your email address. So if you think that I'm joshing you, maybe these aren't that good, go ahead, take a look, scroll through all of them. You'll see we've been running this now for, I believe, just over a month. And take a look, and if you like it, then go ahead and subscribe. That way you get an email when we do post just about every single day, and I promise you it's worth it, and it is free. All right, so starting at the beginning, what is GDP? Okay, GDP is a combination of private consumption plus gross investment plus government investment plus government spending, imports minus exports. Okay, so it's essentially government spending and personal spending by us, the people. So understand that too, the stock market is going to lead something like the GDP numbers. It's going to be ahead of that, obviously, because the stock market is instantaneously affected by Alphabet coming out with its earnings reports or Apple coming out with its earnings reports. And so those are you're going to get that data right at the front instead of waiting for GDP numbers, which is only done quarterly. You could be losing 20 to 30% before these numbers are even released. GDP numbers are released quarterly, okay? And about 2/3 of GDP is attributed to consumer spending. Consumer spending has been down. So the main reason why this GDP is looking so good is because we just had the government shutdown Q4 of last year, and then all of a sudden we've got a ton of government spending, a surge actually in government spending at the state and local level. So a few factors that come into play with consumer spending is obviously retail spending. This is cars, this is shopping, and then home sales and where they're living, moving costs, all those things come into play. So I'm going to go through all of that data. Unemployment rates are still relatively low. I didn't dig up the numbers on this actually for this piece, but that's okay. GDP estimates published earlier, this is now 2 days ago, 1.43% by Nowcast. That's the New York Fed, okay? And GDP Now, which is based out of Atlanta, research, and they published on April 25th, 2.7%. I think it's probably safe to say it's somewhere cut almost in half of what this number is. So the BEA, Advanced Estimations, and I've got all the links here for you, released, this is now yesterday, early estimations of 3.2%. Understand that the final number will not come out until May 30th. Okay, so here is the data that is floating around. From all standpoints, the GDP numbers are looking strong. But as you can start to see as we dive deeper, it's not so strong. Okay, you can see below, data compiled since 1947, with inflation taken into consideration, recession gray, and 10-year moving average, which is showing 2.25%. Okay, and here's a log scale version of recessions are in gray. So overall, the trend we're below 13.4%. Real GDP exponential regression. Data through 2019, Q1. Rick Davis of Consumer Metrics Institute, he was quoted as saying more like should be about half annualized growth rate. So 1.56. All right, now let's start to look at this data. And I've got two things for you. I've got all these links across the top, and I've got some images to show you. So now let's take a quick trip through the past. You remember we had the yield curve inversion, which is usually a pretty good indicator of a recession. At least it has been up until this point. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is that right now the stock market is not being fueled by retail buyers, retail investors, okay? It's being fueled by corporate buybacks. This is stock buyback programs. And what do we see here? The one time that the S&P composite buybacks floated above the capital expenditure was right before the 2008 crash, okay? The whole thing started at 2006, ended in 2009. But it's safe to say that 2008 was really the most impactful year. I think that's the year that real estate really took a dump, and that's the year that things really went south. So now you'll see here, we are floating well above. So we might not be peaked yet. We still might have some room to go, but we are definitely peaking on the buybacks, right? Here's another look at that. Corporations are the largest source of equity demand. Okay, corporations are the ones buying, and the retail investors are the ones selling. Number of countries in the world in a recession. We are at almost a record low. The only other time since 1980 that has been recorded is this little patch here, ending in a 2008 economic crisis. So we are at even lower lows than back then. And this I'll just throw in here because these aren't in order, so I apologize, but this I'll throw in here. The fact that for the first time ever, there's now more people that are like the 65 and older than 5 and younger is a little bit concerning, and it's only because, so they just are crossing over now in 2018. And the reason why it's concerning is because they need infrastructure. They are stopping the working years, right? They are ending their work years, and now they get to do what? Well, according to the old model, they should be able to retire now and take it easy and have Social Security. Well, Social Security has been robbed now, and there's not enough there for these people. We also don't have the infrastructure with the retirement homes or senior citizen living homes or whatever you want to call them. We don't have the infrastructure in most major cities, which hint, investment opportunity. Cumulative flows of tech funds have stalled out. 2018, 2019, I would say that's pretty stalled out. Bank of America data. And here is the last one I wanted to show you, which should have been at the very beginning, but I had to dig it up. Inverted yield curve helps predict recessions. Here is a look from the Federal Reserve of St. Louis. Here is the recessions in gray, boom, boom, boom. And here is our bottoms, aka flattening of yield curves, crossing of yield curves, and we are at it again. That's the imagery that I've got for you. Now let's get into some of the data. All right, so the mystery behind GDP report. Where did the inventories come from? Growth in the first quarter smashed expectations, fueled in part by strong inventory building. According to the government, 32 billion of goods were added to inventories this quarter, or 128 billion annualized. Inventory buildup, you can see here. This stockpile of goods boosted first quarter GDP growth by about 70 basis points and helped propel growth to a 3.2% annual rate, well above forecasts. So it's not fair because it's not a final number. Now, why is GDP so important? Well, the Duke CFO Global Business Outlook, I believe, is the full name of it. They do a survey. Okay, well, maybe it's just CFO Global Business. They do a survey once every quarter. And check this out. I wrote this piece too. This is from April 22nd. And here's the headline. 2/3 of American CFOs see a recession in 2020. This isn't necessarily new. They've eased up a little bit. They're not as pessimistic as they were in quarter four, but they're definitely not, they're still looking at recession in 2020 with 87% of them seeing one in 2021. Almost half, 47% CFOs said that they consider GDP growth to be one of the 3 most important indicators of their firm's fortunes. Consumer spending, 39%. Commodity prices, 31%. Interest rates, 29%. The other 2 don't matter. The thing I want to focus on the most is consumer spending. Consumer spending represents 39%. And they look at GDP. Half of them look at GDP as the main indicator for their company, for their firm. And within that, they look at consumer spending. Okay, so let's keep flowing along here. So now we've established, hopefully, that you can see that retail investors, aka consumer spending, is not going into the stock market. Okay, now let's look at what's going on with real estate. And now let's look at what's going on with real estate. I've got a few pieces here where the population is changing, percent change, 1.8% or more. So you see there's quite a bit of action. People are being squeezed out of states because of the affordability. And I have just a small sample size of this, but there's much, much more. So New York, California are 2 of the biggest states being abandoned. Here's some more data by North American. They're a moving service, probably by far the biggest in the world. 14% of the population, roughly 40 million people, accounts for moving every year. All right, so where are the biggest outbound? Just like I said, and it makes sense. You got Michigan in there, got California in there, Oregon, top outbound, Illinois, California, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland. There's that. You got some of the most expensive states and some of the weirdest in terms of applying new social justice warrior legislation. Some very weird things being established in some of these states, and they're very expensive as well. And so people are leaving. Not the rich, but everyday people are leaving because they're being squeezed out. Okay, I've got one other thing here for you. Okay, so I've actually loaded this site up. I was going to do screenshots originally, but I implore you to take a look through this yourself. This is truly a real estate website. And what you will find is that almost every single major city, the number of housing sales are down right now. So this is 5-year, but let's just kick it up to max. They all have this divot from 2008 to 2009 when the real estate market was the worst. They all dip like this and create this V. You see it in sales and you see it in median sales price. And what we're seeing right now is a slump in sales. So if no houses are being sold and the inventory is stacking up, that is a clear indication of what? A slowing economy. Now, I do think that this whole thing that is brewing right now, whatever it becomes, so you want to call it a recession, a reset, a slowdown, right? Whatever soft word you want to use or harsh word you want to use, I do believe that it will be overall softer than what we saw in 2008. It's not going to be as harsh and definitely not on real estate. That's my opinion anyway. So sales are down. And I challenge you, go to this site and look at every single major city. I think 99% of them all show similar data. Sales are down, inventory is up. That means nobody's buying. Okay, next piece of stat. So real estate, we've now covered that. People are moving out of expensive states and inventory is slowly building up, meaning people are trying to cash out at all-time highs in a lot of these areas, like Denver. Look, we're at an all-time high. They're trying to cash out at the top, but inventories now are building up. And that is true for a lot of cities. The next piece, I've got two pieces of data here. One says 23% of Americans save no money from their paycheck. The other one is 55% of people do not have $500 for a emergency in their pocket right now. Okay, so this is according to a 2019 savings survey. I don't know how much actual data there was in this. First, the good news. According to the survey, 40% of Americans prioritize their savings for their emergency fund. 27% report their highest priority for their savings is retirement. 39% of Americans plan on spending this year's tax refund by putting it into savings. That's really good, actually. I mean, a couple years ago, it was like going out and, being a consumer. 25% of Americans have never withdrawn from their savings account. That is amazing. 1/4 of the population, according to the survey, however many was surveyed in this. Then the not so good news, according to the survey, 63% of Americans do not set annual savings goals. 74% of Americans put 10% or less of their monthly paycheck towards savings. That's 3/4 are not saving enough, 10% or less. 23% report that they put in 0% of their monthly paycheck towards savings. So about a quarter save nothing. 75% put 10% or less. All right, here's the other piece. Survey company Varo on March 5th, this is a little bit older, across all age groups, 55% of respondents said they did not have $500 in cash for an emergency. Men are far more likely than women to have an emergency fund of at least $500. 56% of men versus 39% of ladies. So ladies, I know they're very small demographic on this channel, but you got to get your savings up. Guys, congratulations. I guess you're ahead in this. Okay, 6 in 10, 61% millennials don't have $500 to cover an emergency expense. So 61% of millennials do not have $500 to cover an emergency expense. A lot of them don't have healthcare. Healthcare coverage is at a low as well. So that's pretty interesting. All right, so now we're starting to get some more data, right? People they don't have savings. Their inventory of real estate is going up. Corporate buybacks are responsible for the all-time highs in the stock market, especially FANG stocks right now. What are they spending on? Are they buying cars? No. Cooling on cars. The youngest drivers are most likely to buy used vehicles than older generations. I don't even know what some of these are anymore, to be honest with you. I know Boomer, Gen X, and Gen Y, but Gen Z, I guess, would be like the young. I think they make it overly confusing. Oh, here it is. Boomers, yes, we all know. 46 to 64. 65 to 76 is Gen X. Then Gen Y is technically 77 to 94, and Gen Z is 95 to 2004. That's years born, by the way. And that is how JD Power defines it. All right, so it looks like a lot of the up-and-coming generations are not spending their money on brand new cars. They are buying used cars. All right, another interesting piece. Now we get into some of the more depressing stuff. Among the class of 2018, 69% of college students took out student loans, and they graduated with an average debt of $29,800. The total global statistic is somewhere around 1.6 trillion in student loan debt. Okay, you can check this out on the Fred site yourself. So the debt for student loans in America is on the rise. Okay, and there's talks of a global forgiveness that they're trying to, I think some people are trying to work on a bill, some people in Congress. General student loan debt facts, 1.56, 44.7 million Americans with student loan debt. 11.5% of student loans are 90 days or more delinquent, aka they're in default. Average monthly student loan payment, $393. Yeah, 11% are in default right now. That's not good. Okay, next. Well, maybe they're just shopping it. Maybe they're just making it rain and they don't care, right? Well, I do have some data on that as well. So there is essentially a bloodbath going on right now, and everyone is dumping the big box stores and going for e-commerce. So I do want to show that some of this represents a loss to the e-commerce grind and buying stuff online, which millennials especially do buy a shitload of stuff online. They are the primary demographic driving things like Grubhub. And there's a variation of Grubhub essentially that's been running throughout Asia for much, much longer. I think that's where they got the model from. That does, that convenience factor people do want. And it seems to be the younger generations who want it the most. So another 75,000 stores could close by 2026. That is frightening. There are over 6,000 stores that are going to close through 2019. Okay, here's the piece on that. But that's not all because people aren't spending. I want to be fair here. The rise of e-commerce in the United States. So e-commerce essentially is accounting for almost all of the retail sales. Okay, so retail sales are no longer looking like they want the big box. Go there and pick it out and try it on, waste half your day shopping. They don't care anymore. They just want to buy it online and ship it to my door. And we see this growth. We see this growth all over with Amazon and similar sites. You've got Alibaba. You've got Tokopedia throughout Asia. That's another one. Lazardo is another one throughout Asia, but there are many. eBay. This doesn't necessarily mean that spending is lowered. It just means that all the spending has shifted from big box to e-commerce and online. So that is it, my friends. That's all I've got for you. That is my data. And again, please remember, this is a small sample size of the data that actually exists that's pointing in the direction of, yes, a slowdown. So there are a few things you can do. First and foremost, making a plan is by far the most important thing you could do. And I think a lot of people are planning wrong, and I've got your back. I've got something for you. I have got the Bulletproof Portfolio. It is simply a 27-minute video and a 15-page PDF going through what I think is the simplest call to make with your money. It is a way to diversify yourself so that you don't have to be glued to the markets or become a market expert or a trader with indicators and charts. And you don't have to watch the markets all day long. I think it's very simple. I think anyone can do this. And my demographic is mostly men, middle-aged men. So I think, guys, this could be something really, really great for you. Here's the kicker. I'm going to just charge $7 for this. That's right, just $7. So essentially a Starbucks coffee. And to be honest with you, if we met in person face to face, I would just ask, hey, buy me a coffee, and I'll share this with you. So I'm sure you're going to get something out of it. I think it's going to really help. If nothing else, it's going to get the gears churning in your brain to help you make your own plan. I always say, make a plan, work the plan. Simple, my friends. Now, you can let all of what I just shared with you scare you, or you can take action on this. You can seize opportunities which are going to continue to be on the rise in all areas. In the stock market, there will be opportunities. In real estate, there will be opportunities. Precious metals, cryptocurrencies, everything you can imagine, private lending, that will all be in demand, and in demand even greater and greater as time goes on. It's most important for you to have that plan for yourself, for your family. All right, that's all I got for you. Click the like button if you like this, and go ahead and share this around. I would love that, okay? And it helps this message get out to more people. If you got something to say, I'd love to hear it. Go ahead, comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you did find us. You got this shared to you, emailed off to you, shared on WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell notification so you get all of our juicy updates in your inbox. Be on the lookout. More videos dropping soon. Bye.